You know that feeling when you look at your bank account and your stomach just drops? Yeah, that was me 3 months ago, staring at a balance that had 5 fewer digits than it should have. My name is Marissa, and I run a small cafe in Phoenix called Desert Bloom. It's not much, but it's mine. Or at least, it was supposed to be. My little sister Clara called me on a Tuesday night, crying so hard I could barely understand her. She'd just gotten engaged to Ethan, this guy she'd been dating for 8 months, and apparently, he wanted the wedding of the century. The problem? Their combined savings could maybe cover a backyard barbecue, not the fairy tale she'd been dreaming about since we were kids playing dress up in Mom's closet. Marissa, you're the only one who can help me, she sobbed. Mom and Dad can't afford it, and Ethan's parents, they said they'd help, but then his dad lost his job. I can't lose him. I can't. Here's where I made my first mistake. I said yes. Not just a little yes, either. I'm talking the full package. Venue, catering, flowers, photographer, the works. $28,700. That's not a typo. I liquidated my emergency fund, took a loan against my cafe, and watched years of careful saving evaporate for a single day that wasn't even mine. Clara promised she'd pay me back. Ethan swore up and down they'd have the money within a year. I wanted to believe them. Family's supposed to have your back, right? That's what I kept telling myself every time I signed another check. Every time my accountant gave me that look that said I was making a terrible decision. The wedding was set for June 15th in Denver, where Ethan's family lived. 3 months away. Clara sent me updates constantly at first. Dress fittings, cake tastings, venue tours. I watched my little sister light up over video calls, and for a moment, the knot in my stomach loosened. Maybe this was worth it. Maybe I was being the sister she needed. But I had no idea the wedding I paid for never even happened. It started small. Clara's text responses got shorter. The video calls stopped completely. When I'd ask about wedding details, she'd deflect with one-word answers or change the subject. Busy with work, she'd say. Planning is stressful, you know how it is. Except I didn't know how it was, because she wasn't telling me anything. 2 weeks before the wedding, I realized I hadn't received an invitation, not a formal one anyway. When I brought it up, Clara laughed it off. Oh, Marissa, you're family. You don't need a formal invite. Just show up, obviously. Obviously. Right. I tried calling her 5 times in one day, straight to voicemail every single time. I texted Ethan, read receipts on, but no response. Even Mom noticed Clara had gone quiet, but she chalked it up to pre-wedding jitters. Give her space, honey. She'll come around. Space. That's what everyone kept telling me to give her, even though I'd just handed over my entire financial cushion. If you've ever been ghosted by family when you were just trying to help, drop a fire emoji in the comments so I know I'm not alone. Because let me tell you, this silence was louder than any argument we'd ever had. The week of the wedding arrived, and I still didn't have basic details. What time should I be there? Was there a rehearsal dinner? Did she need help with anything? Radio silence. I packed my bags anyway, included Grandma's vintage bracelet, the one she'd left specifically for Clara to wear on her wedding day, and told myself everything would make sense once I got to Denver. I was running on hope and denial, a dangerous combination. My cafe manager, Tessa, watched me lock up the day before I was supposed to leave. "Boss, are you sure about this?" she asked, arms crossed. "Something feels off." "She's my sister," I said, like that explained everything. like that made the silence acceptable. Tessa just shook her head. Sometimes the people closest to us are the ones who hurt us worst. I should have listened. But instead, I climbed into my car the next morning, that heirloom bracelet burning a hole in my purse, and started the 12-hour drive from Phoenix to Denver with my heart still foolishly full of hope. The drive from Phoenix to Denver is gorgeous if you're in the mood to appreciate it. Desert gives way to mountains, the air gets thinner, and normally I'd stop at every scenic overlook to take pictures. But that day, I white-knuckled the steering wheel for 12 straight hours, fueled by gas station coffee and the stubborn belief that everything would be fine once I arrived. I'd booked a room at the Courtyard Denver, a mid-range hotel about 15 minutes from the venue. The wedding was supposed to start at 4 in the afternoon. I got there at 11 in the morning, giving myself plenty of time to check in, change, maybe grab Clara for a quick lunch before the chaos began. The hotel lobby was dead quiet. No wedding guests milling around, no excited families, no flower arrangements, nothing. I texted Clara, "I'm here, where are you? Want to meet up before the ceremony?" The 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. My heart hammered. Then, finally, oh, oh, that's it? Just, oh? Another message. We had it yesterday. I read it 3 times before my brain would accept what my eyes were seeing. We had it yesterday. Casual, breezy, like she was talking about a dentist appointment I'd missed, not the wedding I'd drained my life savings to pay for. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely type back. What do you mean yesterday? The invitation said June 15th. Today. Change of plans. Ethan's grandmother got sick, so we moved it up. It was kind of last minute. Small ceremony. Just immediate family. Immediate family. I was her sister. I was immediate family. I was the person who paid for every single thing she was describing. I called her. It rang once, then went to voicemail. I called again. Voicemail. Ethan's phone? Voicemail. I sat in that hotel lobby for 20 minutes, just staring at my phone, waiting for the punchline. This had to be a joke. A cruel, terrible joke, but still a joke. Clara would burst through the doors any second, laughing, saying, "Gotcha," and we'd all go to the actual wedding together. She never came. I drove to the venue anyway. Mountain View Gardens, the place I'd paid $8,000 to secure. It was locked up tight. No cars in the lot, no signs of recent activity. I called the venue coordinator, a woman named Patricia who'd been so helpful during the planning process. "Oh yes, the Henderson Reyes wedding," Patricia said when she finally answered. "They canceled about 10 days ago. Received a full refund, actually. I'm surprised you didn't know." Full refund. 10 days ago. While Clara was still texting me updates, still pretending everything was on track. I sat in my car in that empty parking lot, pulled out my folder of receipts, and stared at the numbers. $28,700. Every penny accounted for. Every vendor paid. And somewhere, somehow, my sister had canceled it all, collected the refunds, and simply forgot to mention it. Or worse, she hadn't forgotten at all. I drove back to Phoenix in a fog, didn't stop except for gas, didn't eat, just drove, my mind spinning in circles trying to make sense of what had happened. Clara's phone stayed off for 3 days. Mom kept insisting it was a misunderstanding, that Clara would explain everything soon. Dad stayed quiet, which somehow felt worse. Then Aunt Linda called, and everything got darker. "Marissa, honey, I need to talk to you about Clara." she said, her voice trembling in a way I'd never heard before. Linda was my dad's sister, tough as nails, the kind of woman who didn't shake easily. Hearing her scared made my blood run cold. What about her? I asked, even though part of me didn't want to know. She's in trouble, real trouble. There are people in Miami looking for her. Dangerous people. Miami. Clara had mentioned a girl's trip to Miami about 6 months ago, but I hadn't thought much of it at the time. She was always traveling, always chasing the next adventure. What kind of people, Linda? A long pause. The kind you borrow money from when banks won't touch you anymore. Marissa. She owes them over $40,000. My mouth went dry. 40,000? How? Why? I don't know all the details, but Linda's voice dropped to almost a whisper. Honey, some of that debt is in your name. She used your information as collateral. The room started spinning. My name. She'd borrowed money using my identity. That wasn't just betrayal. That was fraud. That was criminal. Linda, are you absolutely sure about this? My friend's son works in debt collection. He saw your name come across his desk yesterday. That's the only reason I found out. Marissa, you need to protect yourself. Get a lawyer. Check your credit report. These people don't mess around. I thanked her and hung up, then immediately pulled up my credit report on my laptop. And there it was. 3 accounts I'd never opened. 2 personal loans I'd never taken. All delinquent. All destroying the credit score I'd spent years building. Clara hadn't just stolen my money. She'd stolen my identity, my financial future, my trust. And the wedding? That wasn't about love or celebration. That was about one thing: cash. $28,000 in wedding refunds, plus whatever she'd already gotten from those Miami loans. My sister had turned me into her personal ATM, and she'd done it so smoothly I hadn't seen it coming until I was already bled dry. That's when I realized the wedding might have been a cover for something darker. Something I was only beginning to understand. I couldn't sleep, couldn't eat. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Clara's face, heard her crying on the phone that night she'd asked for help. Had any of it been real? Or was I just that easy to manipulate? I started making calls. First, the venue. Patricia at Mountain View Gardens confirmed Clara had canceled on June 5th and received a full refund of $8,000 to an account in her name. Same story with the caterer. $6,000, refunded. The photographer, $3,000. The florist, $2,500. I'm confused, the florist said. Your sister told us you'd had a death in the family and couldn't go through with the wedding. She seemed really broken up about it. A death in the family. I was alive. But Clara had buried me anyway. By the time I'd called everyone, I had a clear picture. Clara and Ethan had systematically canceled every service, collected every refund, and pocketed close to $30,000. My $30,000. What would you have done here? I need to know. Tell me below. Because I was standing at a crossroads, and every path forward looked like it would destroy what was left of our family. I called Ethan's parents. His mom, Diane, answered on the 3rd ring. Marissa, how are you, dear? We're so sorry we missed you at the wedding. Missed me. Like I'd simply not shown up. Diane, I need to ask you something, and I need you to be honest. Did Ethan's dad really lose his job? Silence. Then, lose his job? Honey, Richard's been with the same company for 23 years. Where did you hear that? My stomach dropped. Another lie. The whole story about why they couldn't help pay for the wedding was fabricated from the start. And the wedding, I continued, You were there? Of course. It was beautiful. Small like they wanted. Very intimate. Just the two families. Diane, I'm Clara's sister. Another pause. Longer this time. I I thought you two weren't speaking. Clara said you'd had a falling out. That you didn't approve of Ethan. The lies were stacking up so high I could barely see over them. Clara had cut me out of her wedding while taking my money, then told everyone I was the problem. That I'd chosen not to be there. When did she tell you that? I asked. Months ago, dear. Before any of the planning even started. Before. This wasn't spontaneous or reactive. This was calculated, premeditated. Clara had planned to exclude me from day one while keeping my wallet wide open. I thanked Diane and hung up, my hands shaking with rage. That's when my phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. This is Ethan. We need to talk. Clara doesn't know I'm reaching out. There's a lot you don't understand. I stared at that message, every instinct screaming at me that this was another trap. But I needed answers, so I did something stupid. I texted back, talk. We met at a coffee shop in Scottsdale, neutral territory, public enough that I felt safe. Ethan showed up 20 minutes late, wearing sunglasses indoors and looking over his shoulder like he expected someone to jump him. Thanks for meeting me, he said, sliding into the booth across from me. He looked terrible. Dark circles under his eyes, 3 days of stubble, wrinkled shirt. Not exactly the glowing newlywed look. You have 5 minutes, I said. Talk. Ethan pulled off his sunglasses and I could see genuine fear in his eyes. Or at least, what looked like genuine fear. I wasn't sure I could trust my judgment anymore. I didn't know, he started. About the money, about Miami, about any of it. I swear to God, Marissa, I just found out last week. Found out what exactly? Clara's in deeper than you know. Those people from Miami, they're not just loan sharks. They're connected. Real connected. And Clara didn't just borrow money. She was running some kind of scheme, promising people investment returns that didn't exist. Ponzi stuff. The wedding money was supposed to help her pay them back before things got violent. I laughed, but there was no humor in it. So, you want me to believe you married a con artist and had no idea? You expect me to buy that? I know how it sounds, Ethan said, leaning forward. But Clara kept everything separate. Different phones, different accounts. I thought the wedding money was a gift from you. She told me you insisted on paying, that you wanted to do something nice for your baby sister. And moving the wedding up? Excluding me? That was all Clara. She said you were busy with your cafe, that you'd suggested a smaller ceremony. By the time I realized you didn't know, it was already done. He ran his hands through his hair. Look, I'm trying to get out. I'm trying to help you get your money back. But Clara's unpredictable right now. Desperate. She's talking about leaving the country. Where is she? I don't know. She took off 3 days ago. Won't answer my calls either. I studied his face, looking for tells, for signs he was lying. Would you forgive a brother-in-law at this point, or cut him off forever? Because sitting across from Ethan, I genuinely couldn't tell if he was another victim or just a better actor than Clara. If you're really trying to help, I said slowly, then you'll give me everything. Bank statements, text messages, whatever you've got. Ethan nodded. I will, I promise. Just give me a few days to get it together. And Marissa, watch your back. If Clara thinks you're going to expose her, she might do something drastic. He left cash for his coffee and disappeared into the parking lot. I sat there for another hour, replaying the conversation, trying to decide if I'd just talked to an ally or sat across from another snake. My phone buzzed. A message from a Miami area code with 3 screenshots attached. Bank transfers between Ethan and someone named Diego V, dating back 8 months. Thousands of dollars changing hands. The final screenshot was a text thread. Ethan to Diego. Marissa took the bait. Wedding funds secured. Clara's playing her perfectly. My coffee went cold in my hand as I stared at those words. Ethan hadn't just known about the scam. He'd orchestrated it. They both had. From the very beginning, I was never family. I was the mark. The person who sent me those screenshots? They called themselves Karma. Dramatic, I know, but I wasn't complaining. Turns out Diego was one of the Miami contacts who was also looking for Clara and Ethan, and he was more than happy to share information if it helped him find them. I spent the next 3 days on the phone with lawyers, police, and my bank. Filed fraud reports for the identity theft, froze my credit, changed every password on every account. But the biggest move? I went public. I created a detailed post laying out exactly what Clara and Ethan had done. I didn't hold back. Screenshots of the receipts, copies of the canceled venue confirmations, the texts where Clara had lied to my face. I tagged every mutual friend, every family member, every vendor who'd worked with them. The response was immediate and explosive. Clara's friends started distancing themselves. Ethan's co-workers found out. His parents called me, horrified, promising they'd make things right. But the best part? The wedding photographer Clara had stiffed on payment after canceling saw my post and shared her own story. Turns out Clara had done this before. To a previous fiancé, to friends, to anyone who trusted her. My sister wasn't just a scammer, she was a serial scammer, and I was just her latest victim. For 48 hours I felt powerful, like I'd taken control of the narrative, exposed the truth, protected future victims. I'd frozen them out of every account they might try to access. I'd warned everyone who might fall for their next scheme. Then, they disappeared. Clara's phone went completely dead. Not just off, disconnected. Ethan's too. Their social media accounts. Deleted. The apartment they'd been renting in Denver? Cleared out. According to the landlord who called me looking for forwarded contact information because they'd skipped out on 3 months' rent. They'd vanished. Completely. Like they'd never existed at all. Diego stopped answering my messages. The lawyer handling my fraud case said without Clara's location, prosecution would be nearly impossible. My money was gone, scattered across a dozen accounts I couldn't track, probably already laundered or spent. I'd won the battle of public opinion but lost the war for justice. And worse? I was starting to realize that Clara and Ethan disappearing might not have been their own idea. Because when you owe dangerous people money, sometimes disappearing isn't a choice. Sometimes it's done for you. It started with a black SUV parked across from my cafe. Same vehicle, 3 days in a row, tinted windows, out-of-state plates, just sitting there from open to close, watching. Tessa noticed it first. "Boss, that car's back again. Should we call the cops?" I should have said yes, but I knew who it was. Or at least, I knew what they wanted. On the 4th day, a man in an expensive suit walked into Desert Bloom right at closing time. He was older, maybe 50, with graying hair and the kind of calm confidence that made my skin crawl. He didn't look at the menu. He didn't sit down. He just walked straight to the counter and looked at me like he already knew everything about my life. "Marissa?" he asked, though we both knew he wasn't really asking. We're closed, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. This won't take long. I'm looking for your sister, Clara. She borrowed something that belongs to my employer, and we'd very much like it back. I haven't seen her. She's not answering my calls either. The man smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. See, that's the interesting part. According to our records, Clara's debt includes several accounts that list you as a guarantor. Which means if she can't pay, you're responsible. That's fraud, I shot back. I never signed anything. She used my identity without permission. I've already filed police reports. Police? He said it like the word amused him. That's one way to handle things. But police reports don't erase debt. They don't make my employer's money reappear. And they certainly don't protect you if your sister decides to point fingers in your direction. I didn't do anything wrong. Maybe. Maybe not. But perception is reality, Marissa. And right now, the perception is that you and Clara worked together. You funded her wedding, which gave her access to a network of wealthy contacts. She ran her little investment scheme. You both profited. Then when things got hot, you threw her under the bus with your viral post. My hands were shaking. That's insane. I'm a victim here. Then help us find her. Because if we don't find Clara soon, we'll have to assume you're hiding her. And we don't like being lied to. He left a business card on the counter. Just a phone number, no name, and walked out. The SUV pulled away a minute later, but the message was clear. They thought I was involved. They thought I knew where Clara was, and they weren't going to stop until someone paid. I closed early that night and drove home, checking my rearview mirror every 30 seconds. Quick pause. If this was your sibling, would you expose them or try to cover for them? I really need to know in the comments, because I'd already exposed Clara, and it was destroying my life just as thoroughly as her lies had. For a week, I waited for the next visit, the next threat. But it never came. The SUV didn't return. The man in the suit stayed away. It almost felt worse. The waiting, the not knowing. Then one morning, I arrived at Desert Bloom to open up, and there was an envelope on the ground by the door. No postage, no address. Just my name written in handwriting I'd recognize anywhere. Clara's. I didn't open it right away. I stood there in the dawn light, holding that envelope like it might explode, my heart hammering so hard I could feel it in my throat. Part of me wanted to throw it away, burn it, pretend I'd never seen it, but I couldn't. Whatever Clara had to say, whatever game she was playing now, I needed to know. Inside was a single sheet of paper, folded in thirds, and something else. Something hard and rectangular taped to the back. The letter was short. Marissa, you don't know the full story. You never did. I'm not asking for forgiveness because I don't deserve it. But if you want the truth, the real truth, come to Miami, the Coral Bay Hotel, room 847. Come alone. Don't trust Ethan. Don't trust the men in suits. And whatever you do, don't believe what the police tell you about me. This is bigger than both of us now. C. Taped to the back of the letter was a hotel key card, white plastic with the Coral Bay Hotel logo embossed in gold. Room 847. I read the letter 3 times, looking for hidden meanings, for tricks, for any sign that this wasn't just another manipulation. Don't trust Ethan. But Ethan had already proven himself a liar. Don't believe what the police tell you. What did that mean? Had Clara been arrested? Was she in witness protection? Or was this just more paranoid nonsense from someone who'd burned every bridge she'd ever crossed? This is bigger than both of us now. Those words stuck with me, because if Clara was telling the truth, if there really was more to this story, then maybe I'd been looking at everything wrong. Maybe I wasn't the only victim. Maybe Clara wasn't the villain I'd made her out to be. Or maybe that's exactly what she wanted me to think. I pulled out my phone and stared at it, thumb hovering over my contacts. I could call the police. I could call Diego. I could call my lawyer and let them handle this. But Clara had said, "Come alone." And something in her handwriting, the way the letters shook in places, the way her signature trailed off, made me think she was genuinely scared. My sister had lied to me, stolen from me, destroyed my credit and my peace of mind. She'd excluded me from her own wedding while spending my money. She'd turned me into collateral for criminals I'd never met. By all rights, I should have walked away, blocked her, let the consequences find her. But she was still my sister, and some part of me, maybe the stupid part, maybe the part that still remembered her at 7 years old, braiding my hair and promising we'd be best friends forever, needed to know what happened, needed to hear her side, even if it was all lies. I looked down at the key card in my hand, that gold logo catching the morning light. Miami was a 3.5-hour flight from Phoenix. I could be there by tonight. In room 847, face to face with Clara, wherever this rabbit hole led. Tessa found me standing there 20 minutes later, still holding the letter. "Boss, you okay?" "I need you to run the cafe for a few days," I said. "Maybe a week. I don't know yet." "Where are you going?" I looked at her, at the cafe I'd built from nothing, at the life that was supposed to be mine. "Miami," I said. "I'm going to Miami." I didn't go to Miami that night, or the next night, or the night after that. The key card has been sitting on my kitchen counter for 2 weeks now, collecting dust, and I still don't know if I'll ever use it. Here's what I've learned. Betrayal doesn't come all at once. It's not one big moment that breaks you. It's 1,000 small cuts, each one bleeding you a little more, until you wake up one day and realize you're empty. Clara didn't just steal my money. She stole years of trust. She stole the version of myself that believed family meant something unconditional. I've started rebuilding. Desert Bloom is still standing. Barely. I took out another small business loan, this time for me, not for anyone else, and I'm slowly clawing my way back to stability. My credit score is still trashed, but I'm working with a fraud specialist to fix it. The police investigation into Clara and Ethan is ongoing, but without their location, it's basically dead in the water. Some nights, I think about that hotel room in Miami, room 847. What would I find if I went? Would Clara actually be there, ready to explain everything? Would it be another trap? Or would the room be empty? Just another lie in a long chain of lies. Mom calls me every few days, crying, asking if I've heard from Clara. Dad's gone quiet, the way he always does when life gets too messy to handle. Aunt Linda sends me articles about fraud protection and emotional manipulation, trying to help in her own way. But nobody talks about the real question. What do you do when the person who hurt you most is still your family? I've read that letter so many times, I've memorized it. You don't know the full story. Maybe I don't. Maybe there's some grand explanation that makes everything make sense. But would it matter? Would the truth change what happened? Would it give me back what I lost? I think about Ethan's face when he lied to me in that coffee shop. I think about the man in the suit, threatening me over a debt I never agreed to. I think about all the people Clara scammed before me, the ones who tried to warn me, the ones I didn't listen to because I thought my sister was different with me. They wanted me blind. But I see clearer than ever. I see that love can be weaponized. I see that trust is a luxury I can't afford anymore. I see that sometimes the people who are supposed to protect you are the ones you need protection from. But here's the thing, and maybe this makes me weak, maybe this makes me stupid, but I'm going to say it anyway. I also see that I survived. I'm standing. My cafe is still here. I wake up every morning and I choose to keep fighting, keep building, keep existing in spite of everything Clara tried to take from me. That has to count for something. The key card catches the light sometimes when I walk past it. Room 847, the Coral Bay Hotel, Miami. One flight, one conversation, maybe one final answer. Do I owe Clara that? Do I owe her the chance to explain, to justify, to ask for forgiveness she doesn't deserve? Or do I owe it to myself to finally close this chapter and walk away? I don't know yet. But that key card is still sitting there, waiting, like a question I haven't figured out how to answer. If you stayed till this point, you're my kind of people. Subscribe so you don't miss what happens when I use that hotel key. Because one of these days, maybe tomorrow, maybe next month, I'm going to pick it up. I'm going to book that flight. I'm going to walk into that hotel room, and I'm going to find out once and for all if my sister was a monster, a victim, or something in between. And whatever I find there, that's going to be the story that finally ends this. Or maybe it'll be the one that starts something even worse. The key card sits on my counter, glinting in the cafe lights, holding secrets I'm not sure I'm ready to know. But ready or not, the truth is waiting. And sooner or later, I'm going to have to face it.